It's Monday, and you know what that means. It's time to unbox a new device. And this week, we have one that was just dropped off by a courier. What is it? Well, let's find out right after this. Hey fam, Swati tu konkrap Pinik here, and thank you again for joining me for another video. And I'm excited to get into this device because I just got it in. As you can tell, it's not a back catalog device. It's one that just came in because it was just released by our buddies at Anbernic. So let's find out what this is like. Now, as always with Anbernic devices, because I can, I always buy the cases because I prefer to have a case for my device. So it should be in here as well. But as you can tell, I don't know for certain because I'm opening this with you right now for the first time. Oh, there we are. Perfect. Drop that packaging there. And then drop this one over here. Okay, there we go. We can see our box. We can see our case, rather, right? All right, so got nice big Anbernic across it. Of course, their logo, which red is my favorite color. So I appreciate that I get nice little red there. Okay, nice felty top and bottom. Nice storage for the cable. Good stuff. The one thing that I wish they had included was the little straps there to be able to pull it and make it a hand strap if you want to, but this is perfectly good. And having this to hold it in place is good. This should keep Dominic from harming the device if I throw it. Well, not if I throw it, if he throws it, but you know what I mean. So, all right. So as you can see, I'm going to zoom in here real quick. There we go. Let's adjust the camera for you. Beautiful. All right, so we got the all-new RG476H. This is my third device with the 4.7-inch IPS display that honestly people at my church were fooled into thinking it's OLED because it's that good of an IPS display. Let's take a quick tour around the box. Nothing on this side. Nothing on the bottom. Some made in China FCC gubbins. And then, of course, you have your black, your retro gray, and indigo. Of course, indigo is the GameCube color. And some people like the black, as you can see here. But as you can see the little mark, I went with retro gray, aka DMG gray. Pulls right off. Not too much effort. Appreciate that. Some of them take a lot of finagling. Nice foam pad. Okay, and let's just dig in, find out what else we got, just to be certain. We get our traditional Anbernic manual, and I like to be like a normal consumer, so I did buy the 256 card. One of the nice things is if you buy the cards from Anbernic, they will come preloaded with games, generally speaking. We'll find out here in just a moment, but I like that for the newbie to the hobby. Now, of course, if you're not new to the hobby and you already have your own ROM collection curated, this wouldn't be necessary, and you could get your own much better quality micro SD card, as these generic ones are more apt to potentially break, and then you're without any type of working system. But I know that you can obviously get your own card and do it. So with these, as you can see, it's a no-name micro SD card. So what I would recommend if you're new to the hobby is take everything off of this and buy a brand new card that would be a 256 card and put it on there from a name brand. The reason for that is these are prone to breaking, and you don't want to be in the middle of playing a game and having a micro SD card failure because of the cheap micro SD card. How soon does that happen? Every time it's different. It could be a week, it could be 2 years. You just never know, but these are going to be much more prone than the name brands. So even a cheap name brand would generally be better than these no names. Okay, let's see here. Talking about DisplayPort out, which is good because I can obviously test out the secondary screen from the Retroid Pocket 5 that I bought and recently reviewed just this past Friday, of course. So I like that they give us this manual because, again, if you're new to the hobby, these types of manuals are very beneficial. And of course, in here, we have our USB-C to USB-A charging cable in case you need it. Of course, I don't because, well, this is already my, 20th device or whatever reviewed. So I definitely don't need them, but some people do. So there's the box. It looks really great. What about the device? Now, as I mentioned, this is my third device with this screen. The first was the RG Slide, which was a little bit more expensive than this is, but had the slide it mechanism of the PSP Go. And then we had the RG477M. So the RG477M, if you're not familiar with their naming convention, RG just means retro games. And then the first two numbers is the size of the screen, so 4.7 inches. And then 6 means their 6th generation SoC, which an SoC is a CPU and a GPU and other bits mixed together. And then H meaning horizontal versus you could have a V for if it was vertical, which this would make an interesting vertical device because of such a big screen. I wouldn't be shocked if Anbernic tries to roll out an RG476V or 477V, but right away, it's kind of smooth, flat on the back, but at least you do have a bit of a curve here. Now, these are the nice sticks that you can replace with sticks that I got from my partner Sakura or anywhere else that you buy your sticks. So for example, you could go on AliExpress and buy the sticks for the AYN Odin 2 portal, and they'd absolutely work there without any issues. See what else we got as a quick tour around. Got volume up and down, power. There's our exhaust because we do have active cooling on this guy. This is using the Unisoc T820, which is a relatively powerful system. You can get some PS2 out of it. Not all, but some. We do have our downward firing speakers, our USB-C port. I wish it was centered. Anbernic, come on, center those. It just looks better and obviously would play better with that screen add-on. You have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and of course you have the micro SD card slot. So pop it open. See what kind of door this is. Doesn't want to come up very easy. There we go. And then pull it off to the side. Okay, perfect. So before I turn it on, I will grab out my micro SD card. And normally, I don't know why, but normally they make it where the image faces down. Let's see. Yep. So a lot of these companies do that for some reason. I'm not sure why again, but a lot of the retro handheld makers tend to make it where the image of the micro SD brand faces down. Okay, so let's get this guy turned on. Now, one of the things I wished for whenever I unboxed and when I reviewed the RG Slide and the RG477M, which M means metal in their case, was I had wished for stacked shoulder buttons. We finally have some stacked shoulder buttons, which is great. They are firm, but not too firm, so you don't have to worry about accidental presses. R1, L1 are a bit loud. But as usual, the face buttons and the D-pad are quiet, good sized traditional one here. So we can change our language if we want to. Of course, it's currently set to English. So we'll go next. We can set up our Wi-Fi. So of course we'll do that. Turn on the Wi-Fi. Give me a moment. I'm not going to show you my password. Okay, I'm back and I'm connected to Wi-Fi. So we can click next again. Choose the button of the system time. Okay, we'll choose the system time. We'll choose not Greenwich Mean Time or USA. As you guys know, I am in Bangkok, so we'll say Bangkok. There we go. Should have accurate time now. Let me check. Yep, my laptop shows the exact same time, so that's good. So we'll use the time there. Beautiful. And then this will take some time to do all of the configuring on the back end. So I'm going to pause this so you don't have to watch this boringness, and I'll be right back. Okay, it's just finishing up here in just a moment. It's been about 3 minutes. So while we're doing that, I'll just kind of go over the reviewing the front here. So this is Anbernic's first all glass front. Looks suspiciously like the guy I just reviewed, obviously. The Retroid Pocket 5, which had an all glass screen, also had PlayStation formatted buttons and D-pad and analog sticks, but differs, of course, because this is a 4:3 aspect ratio screen versus a 16:9 aspect ratio screen. And you can see my RGB is all kinds of colors spinning around slowly but surely. And we do have start select up here versus the Retroid and AYN has start and select up here. And then we have a home and back button here and the Retroid button, which I believe you can reprogram, which would normally launch their launcher. So let's go ahead. This is full Android. So again, the beauty of it is you do have the full Play Store. And most Android games will properly format themselves to be able to play on a 4:3 aspect ratio. The reason that you want 4:3, especially for these retro handhelds, is everything PS1 and before, and even some PS2 and GameCube were 4:3, which is the aspect ratio we used before HD TVs. So that's why you'd want that, because you're playing retro games after all. Again, this IPS display is spectacular. The colors really pop on it, and it looks really good. It is a nice high refresh rate at 120 Hertz. It's just really nice. We do have our drag and drop menu here, and then we can change the brightness. So let's see here. Probably makes it a little bit easier for you to see if I do that. Good. So you can turn on the retro game launcher, the Anbernic launcher there. Key map. You can do key mapping for games such as Genshin Impact if you want, that don't have actual handheld button controls. CPU mode, on and off. Okay, we'll just keep it off then. Fan, we'll leave that on auto. Ambient lighting, that's where you can change your ambient lighting. Got it. Thank you. So you see we do have different ways of doing things. And interestingly, you can apparently do uniform speeds, slow down, or speed it up. How bright do you want it to be? So, and then you can apply it. Really nice little, easy to do. Let's see here. Chasing, so you can make it chase colors if you want. Gaming, you can make it go with the game. Breathing would be like pulsating, just a light, and then you select the color. Rainbow, and then the marquee is the one that we're on, so we'll just leave it there. Okay, Google Play Protect is on, which is a good thing, of course, protect yourself from bad things. So you have NS mode, you have both, or you have Xbox mode. So you can do Nintendo Switch, only buttons, only triggers, or both. The reason that you have that is, for example, the enter button on Nintendo is the A button, is this button. So if you wanted only buttons, match Nintendo, you'd say do only button. And the reason that they say trigger is these are the triggers, if you're not familiar, and these triggers on Nintendo Switches are digital. So they're just a clicky button, just like the face buttons. Whereas Xbox mode, they are analog, right? So that's that, and also Xbox, or I would say modern mode, even though, of course, Nintendo Switch is modern too, but because PlayStation and Xbox use the bottom button as the enter button when you're playing a game. To proceed or pick up a box usually, or those types of things would be this button. So it's asking you, what do you want? Do you want to have only the trigger, the analog, but keep the Nintendo Switch here? Or do you want it to be on both? I want both because I'm used to pushing here for enter. So we'll do that. Trigger type, linear, non-linear, okay? As a gradient where you can just slowly push it, linear or not linear. Okay, beautiful. All right. So, of course, one of the, I guess, for lack of a word, bad things about this device is it will come with games, but it's not going to have the main front end loaded on it because, again, the main front end is going to be usually RetroArch as the back end and front end, or you would be using the, there's actually Azahar already on here too, nice. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. So you can either use RetroArch for both your back end and your front end, or what most people do is they get RetroArch as their back end to manage all of the emulators and its own emulators, but then also they would like to use, for example, ESDE, which means Emulation Station Desktop Edition. They would prefer to have ESD as their front end that ties into having RetroArch as their back end. you can absolutely do that. I want to try Beacon. I'm thinking about buying Beacon. It's a one-time purchase. Just so you know, ESDE on Android is a one-time purchase as well, versus if you buy it for a Linux device, or if you get it for a Linux device or on Windows, there's no charge for it. The reason for that is they are hyper focused on Android, since there are so many Android-based devices coming out. So their development time is there, and so you're supporting them by having a one-time charge. To do it, you just go to their Patreon, subscribe one time, and then you can immediately cancel your subscription, but then that puts you on their mailing list. So every time there's a new update to ESDE, you'll automatically get that. So all that said, like I say, we do have RetroArch, and we do have Moonlight. So if you want to do some streaming, okay, should be good. Yes, let's allow that. All right, so it's loading everything up. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, okay, load core. Oh, okay, let's see here. Interesting. Let me go back. Okay, there we go. User interface, appearance. QD red. That's my color scheme. I know it sounds funny, but that's the one I like to use. Of course, we'd like some box art with some secondary thumbnails being maybe the title screen. Okay, good. We got all kinds of settings in here. I'll play around with these on my Wednesday live stream. So it's at 7 Thai time. I try to do weekly live streams of the device of the week. So this week, of course, will be this device. So there's all kinds of settings here, as you can see. I defy most people logic, and I prefer the date and time in that format. Sure, let's do that. Okay, I'm fine with that. I do like that it comes default with the battery percentage listed there. So yeah, there's lots of settings in here to play around with and get used to. There we go. We want menu, and we want to change it to XMB, which gives us that look and feel to a PlayStation controller. Or not PlayStation controller, a PSP or PS3. There we go. That makes it so much easier for me because this is the configuration I'm accustomed to seeing, so it looks good there. Okay, so as I said, I'm not going to play around with it too much. There should be a bunch of games in here already, so we can scan the directory. And yes, scanned. So it's going to take some time to scan, because I imagine there's quite a few games on a 256 gigabyte card, because it does come preloaded. So I'm not going to make you stick around here and watch this. But you can see it starting to go here. Let me just try to zoom in a bit more for you. Maybe 3. Trying to get it to focus here for you. All right, maybe 2. That might be better. There you go. So you can see it going along here. as it's loading my games list. So this is what I mean. You can absolutely have it as your front end. And again, I don't mean to be confusing, so I'll go ahead and explain real quick. The front end is the user interface that you use whenever you're interacting and you're wanting to select your games. The back end is what's going to grab the emulator and load the emulator and do those types of things. So that's why RetroArch can be both. You can absolutely use this as your front end. It's just not as pretty as Beacon or ESDE. So that's why most people, including myself, usually use ESDE. So my first impressions are, feels good. It just, I think, feels a bit more fatiguing than it should, because they could have made this a nice ergonomic grip on each side to make it more comfortable to hold, so your hand is like this rather than trying to be flat. But at least this side has a nice curvature to it, so it's not so sharp. This side is, but again, it is glass on the top. It does look pretty good, at least in my opinion. I like this retro color, but again, I did grow up with SNES and NES as consoles that we played, so I appreciate the nostalgia that this gives me as well, which is why I like the DMG colors. But at the same time, I try to choose different colors all the time because I don't want you guys to be looking at the same color all the time. So trust me, sometimes I pick colors of devices that I would not normally have picked myself, just because I'm picking them out for you guys. So that said, I'm going to let you go while this is loading games. You can see it's still slowly but surely going, adding lots and lots of games, which is definitely slower than ESDE is and Beacon is for loading games for the respective consoles. The difference is ESDE will load all consoles all at once, whereas unfortunately, Beacon you have to go console by console. And I say unfortunately because it's just more work, but it is more customizable in case you're using the same card for everything. Then it's not so bad, because you can say on this device, I'll use Beacon and I'll just use Sega game consoles, right? So maybe you'll have a Sega game console. So you would do that, and with Beacon, you just easily do that. Whereas with ESDE, it'll load everything, and then you have to tell it to hide all of your other consoles, so that device is only an ESDE device, for example. But again, that's enough nerding out for the moment. I'm going to let this load. I'm going to go in and put my email on here so I can download ESDE, get that up and running, get some box art going, because I want this to be in good working order for our Wednesday live stream. So let me know what games you want to see. Hopefully, let me know relatively quickly. I will try to accommodate those, but again, priority will be given to those that are on the live stream and previous requests that I feel would be a good fit for most handhelds to review. So again, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And until next time, this has been P. Nick.